Hi. Well, welcome back to another installment on our webinars where we explore different aspects of our CBSE Digital Citizenship Skills Course. And today we're talking about, you guessed it, screen time. Did you realize that since March of 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, that screen time has skyrocketed? I'm sure you have, because I'm sure you've experienced it in your own life. In fact, studies show that for students, screen time jumped dramatically. In one study I read, about 75% increase for college students in the amount of screen time. And even TV watching amongst Indian children jumped 64%. And yes, TV watching counts as screen time. So we have all heard a lot about screen time and its impacts. Some of these impacts are physical impacts like eye strain or excessive eating, mindless scrolling, but there are also mental health aspects like loneliness, feelings of isolation, and of course sometimes feelings of irritability or anger when people get interrupted from watching their screens. So what can we do about it? Well, the reality of the situation is that screens are probably here to stay. And especially for teens, once they go on to certain platforms, they're unlikely to walk those back. Additionally, if you think about it, most of the screen time that teens do is not in schools. It's on the weekends, in the evenings, with their friends, with their family. So how can we have this topic and this discussion in the classroom that enables children to see that excessive screen time has a big impact for them? Well, I like to start by something very basic, which is let's talk about all the things you used to do before you were on your screens. Remember those days when you used to go for a walk in the park or play basketball with your friends, maybe even just go out to the mall or spend time chatting with your family members. So it's important that kids remember, hey, I did like doing those things. It was fun to spend time with my grandparents or my parents and just have a chat. It's important also to acknowledge for us as adults to think about the fact that there are still some things that children like to do online as well. Maybe they really like that gaming, or maybe they just like watching a cricket match on a Saturday afternoon. So it's not about cutting off screen time altogether. It's about talking to kids about balancing. It's okay to be on a screen for certain periods of time, but most of your time should be spent in the real world. And by the way, there are studies that show that it improves teens' moods when they can access their friends through social media when they have an urgent issue that they really want to discuss. So I don't think telling them to completely stop on screens is really the right approach. So what are the first things that we can do? Obviously, let's talk to them about those offline things that they like to do. And then let's talk about, hey, do you know how much time you spend on your screens? I can tell you most people probably don't, including myself. It's hard to remember, oh my gosh, did I really spend that much time? More and more there are apps that will tell you, hey, you've spent this much time on our platform over the course of today or over the course of 1 week. Another great way for kids to get involved in that is to develop something called a habit tracker. Now, what is a habit tracker? A habit tracker is simply a calendar. You can make as many items on your habit tracker or as few items. And you generally just want to list all of the things that you want to inculcate habits. So let's say you want to go for a walk every day. Or let's say you just want to make sure that you drink enough water every day. Those are things that can be put on your habit tracker. You can also encourage students to put things like how much screen time, how much time are they spending watching TV, or how much time are they spending playing video games, and put those on the habit tracker as well. Because once you know how often you do it, then you can decide how do I want to decrease the frequency of some things and increase the frequency of other things. That's the beauty of a habit tracker. Okay, so now that they have this habit tracker, it's important to talk about all the ways that they can modify their habits. Habits are simply doing something again and again repeatedly. And I encourage you to encourage your students to have this discussion in the home as well. As I mentioned, most of their time on screens is spent outside the classroom. So let your kids understand what are the impacts of being on screens too often. What are the things I could be doing instead of being on my screen? How much am I already doing this through my habit tracker? And then how can I have a discussion at home with my siblings, with my parents, with other members of my community to talk about, hey, let's institute a family game night. Let's have a screen-free time in our house where we're all just sitting together and talking about our day. It's important that kids understand that they can take back the power, that they should not be only talking about being on their screen all the time, but also talking about the times that they can spend off time. Now, another aspect of screen time is whether it's active screen time or passive screen time. This is similar to the active and passive digital footprints that we just discussed in our previous video, so I'm sure you already have some idea. An active screen time is a time where the child is interacting. It might be an online class, it might be a video call, it might even be a game on the internet where they're interacting with other players in the game. Passive screen time is where they're just scrolling along on their phone. Maybe they're sitting on the couch all evening and watching the cricket match or binge watching their favorite episodes. The point is that when you're on your screens, try to make the most of it and try to make it as interactive and engaging as possible. It keeps you fresh. It doesn't just become this mindless activity where you spend too much time and you don't even realize what you've done. I hope this topic is helpful for you. I hope you can have an open and honest discussion with your students about screen time and making sure they're creating balance in their lives. In order to get the professional development hours for having watched this webinar, please check out my 5-question MCQ the link is provided in the box below. Remember to have this discussion with your students in the classroom, and please upload your experiences on leadzworld.com. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.